This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
This is so comforting to see because this is my destiny. It is my path. And I should have just listened to myself all of these years, but I let the voices of others tarnish what I knew to be my truth. You are divinely guided, but also you're divinely supported. We are robbing children of the gift of intuition and just even learning what their yeses and their nos are. They very much believed we weren't allowed to take up space. Well, how do you then take that programming, become an adult, and feel like you can take up space in this world? You don't.
Welcome to Emotionally Unavailable, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of emotional availability and intimacy. I'm your host, Melissa Hepner, and I can't tell you how excited I am to have you join me on this journey of self-discovery and connection. Whether you're navigating the complexities of relationships or exploring your own emotional landscape, this podcast is here to inspire, empower, and entertain. So get cozy and let's explore the depths of human emotions together. Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. I hope it's magical for you. I'm recording this intro in a different space and I'm hearing an echo, so I'm sorry about that. Gloria Bettini is today's guest, and she is a globally respected spiritual guide, mentor, and advocate for conscious living. Through her transformative readings, one-to-one mentorship programs, live events, and online courses, Gloria empowers individuals to find inner harmony, unlock their psychic gifts, and connect with the universal energies around them. With years of experience and a deeply intuitive understanding of energy and spirit, she has guided hundreds of clients on their paths to spiritual awakening, healing, and empowerment. Gloria's unique background in mediumship, energy healing, life and personal performance coaching, holistic coaching, and astrology enriches her practice. She combines these diverse modalities to create a holistic approach that addresses the mind, body, and spirit. Her compassionate and approachable nature helps clients heal deeply rooted insecurities and traumas, fostering a sense of self-acceptance and empowerment. Gloria offers her clients not just spiritual guidance, but a bridge to living a life aligned with their soul's purpose, an empowered, spiritually conscious life where they feel at home within themselves. With a mission to create a harmonious and connected world, Gloria's work reaches far and wide. Her live streaming events have brought her signature guidance and spiritual insight to a global community, supporting thousands and aligning with their true selves. She is continually developing new ways to inspire and serve, from live virtual sessions to immersive retreats, designed to support deep healing and conscious transformation. Gloria's online presence is a sanctuary for those looking to find solace, inspiration, and a deeper understanding of themselves and their place in the world. Beyond individual sessions, Gloria's work speaks to a broader vision, a new earth, where individuals live in a harmony with nature, fully aware of their intuitive abilities and connected to the energies around them. Her teachings are grounded, approachable, and transformational, offering spiritual wisdom that feels both accessible and profound. Gloria's work, deeply inspired by her own journey of coming home to self, invites you to embrace your innate power and step into the life you are meant to live. There will be links to, let's see, what did she include? Her YouTube and her Insta and her website. I'm going to send you to this link that she has to help individuals reconnect with their soul's truth, overcome limitations. It's guided by a deep calling. Okay, I don't know for sure if this, let me click on it, because I don't know if this is just like how you can work with Gloria if you want to, or if there's a freebie here. Let me look. Yeah, just different ways to work with her. And she's also got a free meditation on here and some other, like there's a course. So yeah, really cool website she's got here. So I'll make sure to include all of the links to that. It was a beautiful conversation. She is beautiful both inside out. I really loved getting to connect with her, and I think you guys are going to love this conversation. So here's me and Gloria. I love you guys. Please listen to the ads. Bye. Emotionally unavailable.
Hi, how are you?
I know, Melissa. I'm good.
Good. I love your background.
Thank you.
One day I'm gonna have a cute background.
Thank you. I love it.
I also really like your necklace.
Thank you. It's
That
a
is
mop.
so cute. Okay, I thought so. Wow. I love it.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
handmade?
Huh?
Is that handmade?
It is, yes.
I figured.
Yes, yes.
Okay. I knew something was wonky because I have a hotspot so that I'm using something that my whole family is not dragging down, but like,
Yes.
all right,
Oh.
we're good.
Oh, you are here now.
Yeah, I
yes.
switched it really quick because it just sometimes I don't know why it does that, but okay, so just for an upfront, I'm trying to give people a little more idea of the experience because so for one, we're already recording, we're gonna get right into it. This part will probably not even get cut. For two, I will get deep in conversation and still at 11 be like, oh my God, I gotta go. I got another one right after you. So don't take that personally. It just means like we didn't get the wrap up time because, we was deep in conversation.
Yes.
But I'm trying to warn people of things like that because it can feel very abrupt. But I really just like to let the conversation go where it goes,
Yeah.
And as I was looking at your Podmatch profile and trying to figure out, because I'll do a separate intro whenever the episode's about to post. But when I was trying to like summarize, I went back to our messages because what you do is a lot, I feel. So like, not in a bad way at all, but like, I was like, gosh, how do I even begin to summarize that? So I went back to our messages and I love the way you said this. You said, you empower people to come back home to themselves by connecting with the energies around us and developing their psychic abilities. And I love that. And I felt like that was a good starting place. What I have been talking a lot around, I guess, the subject of coming home to yourself because I've been on that journey. I kind of in the beginning of healing, I had this wild spiritual awakening. I've always been into astrology. I've always known I had intuitive gifts. I really ignored a lot of it for a long time because of religious programming. Mm-hmm. But the coming home to yourself, it says so much, but I haven't gotten really specific into other people's experience of that. So I would just love to hear you frame that in your own way.
Yes, of course. Yeah. So first of all, I think that that's what we're all here to do, ultimately, right? Like, I feel that if there is one way to describe maybe the meaning of life, I feel that this is it. Like, this is what we're here to do, each in our own way, each with our own experiences, in whichever way we need to show up in this life. But ultimately, I feel that, to summarize it, it's what we're here to do, all of us, each and every one of us. Now, coming home means to me, for someone to feel completely free and completely at home, completely authentic to themselves, to who they are, and live in a completely free way, in whichever
whatever that means for them.
Whatever that means for them. Yes, exactly. But without having the weight of unresolved trauma, without having the weight of societal conditioning and programming, without having the weight of judgment towards ourselves, or the judgment that comes from other people, and I also feel that a lot of that, as we said, it's a journey and somebody gets there throughout their life, right? And I feel that once we've done the therapy, once we've done the coaching, once we've resolved the stuff that's more on a cognitive level, the more surface level, even though therapy does address stuff that's in the subconscious, of course, but it's more, I still perceive that as quite surface. I
Yes.
think that, right? I think that once we've resolved that, we are already on the doorstep, of our home ultimately. And
Yeah.
I feel that the step to get into the door is the spiritual step, right? It's to
Yeah.
find our own spiritual home with, like, within. And when I say spiritual, it doesn't mean that we all have to become monks and meditate 24 hours a day,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Spirituality, I think, is a very, very personal thing to experience in whichever way we find that is. For some people, it's art. I find art
Right.
incredibly spiritual, right? Writing music, painting, whatever. For some people, is meditating. For some
Right.
people, it's astrology, like whatever it is, right? But find that spiritual experience that then brings you home to your authenticity, which is your potential at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
I
what
love
I
that. I love
do.
the way you say that. I do. I do. I think it represents it so well. Especially because it did strike me a little bit when you said maybe through astrology, because really astrology is what really opened me up.
Mhm.
Like once I started to buy in, because I had a friend whose friend was really into astrology. She's teaching him, he's teaching me, like, because I was working with him at the time. And I mean, I knew my sun sign and I was really familiar with it, but I knew nothing else. And
Mhm.
so he said, well, my friend says it's really more of like a destiny, like that these your characteristics are because this is the way your chart is and blah, blah, blah. It took me a minute to jump over the hump of the idea that I chose this experience. I would say at least 8 months of full study. Like I'm a baby student of astrology. I know very little, but what I do know is very meaningful to me. But like I was very resistant to the idea of, like, I had started to toy with understanding reincarnation, and I'd been like, I sort of believe it, I sort of don't. But as I like unfolded my path that was laid out just so perfectly clear in front of me on a chart, I was like, it does make sense. It really does, especially if I look at like my astrology and my children's astrology. Like I can see the link between them, me, and like my mom. My parents are gone, so I wish that I could get a hold of their like birth certificates, because I was actually trying to find it online the other day. But yeah, like I think astrology helped open me up to those principles. And then once I felt that those were my truth, it was like so easy to just continue down that journey. But some people, their spirituality, they just feel that when they're singing or, so yeah, I think we do all come to this differently. I think we're supposed to come to it differently. I think it's supposed to be diverse and eclectic and whatever's good for us,
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree. At the end of the day, I think that it's what brings us into that transcendence, right? Some people have it, like you said, have it singing. Some people have it exploring our soul's path through astrology. For example, one of the ways that it happens to me is when I do mediumship. I feel like completely connected to everything, and to me that's the, like, one of the most powerful things that happens, and I feel completely at home with it. Like I feel like I was literally put into this world to do that. Like, it feels such a yes, it's a very empowering thing to be able to find something that resonates like this. But I believe that it's not luck, to find it, right? It's a choice. It's choosing to go on a certain path to unpeel all the layers until we get there. It's a very empowered choice, I think.
Yeah, and it's still kind of like crazy to me when I think I've had this epiphany and I've learned this lesson and I'm not going to repeat that pattern or whatever. 6 months later, it comes up again and I get this deeper understanding, and you think you're never going to learn more about this one thing because you know what I'm talking about. When you learn something new about yourself or spirituality or whatever it is, but especially a pattern you've been repeating, like, you're just like, oh, okay, I got it. That's it. And then when it came up again, I was like, wow, I kind of thought thought I was done with that lesson, but man, every time I get to deepen an understanding, and it's funny because while you were saying that mediumship is where you feel like the most at home, like I think this podcast might be where I feel the most at home. That's crazy, but not surprising either, because if you saw my chart, I'm a Gemini sun, and it's pretty much conjunct with my Venus in Gemini.
Okay.
And I'm an Aries rising and a Leo moon. And my Saturn and Mars are in Virgo. And my Jupiter is somewhere around there. I can't remember where my Jupiter is. But anyway, I'm just right there on that. I just
Okay.
communicator.
Yeah, I did think you were a Gemini. Were you born in 1985?
80.
Oh, 1980. Okay. My Venus is also in Gemini.
Oh, is it?
Yes. Yeah. My Venus is also in Gemini. And I have a lot of Gemini. I have Venus in Gemini, Chiron in Gemini, and my MC is also in Gemini. So there's a lot of that.
Yeah. My MC's in Capricorn. My Chiron's in Taurus. Do you use Placidus or whole sign?
I use the Placidus for birth charts. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's still a little confusing to me about, like, in Placidus, Taurus is part of my first house, even though in whole sign it's my second house as an Aries rising, but that's where my Chiron wound is.
Yeah.
So, working over those insecurities and worth issues.
Yes.
All
of that fun stuff.
Yeah. And it's funny because whenever I think about the fact that whenever I was like 5 and heard the story of King Solomon from the Bible, I started praying for like wisdom and understanding as like such a young child. Cause I had some real shit in childhood. So like, that was all very comforting to me, but I do believe that I did, ask for the amount of struggle that I've had in life, but knowing like what Christians say about don't pray for patience or wisdom because you're going to be given like a lot of things. Because I thought that you could just get patience and wisdom, just like I ask, you grant, Okay.
No,
that's not how that worked. And so I was a very wise person by the time I was, 20 with all the shit. But then as I started to like look at my astrology and learn about the soul's path and, blah, 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 I was like, wow, it did make so much sense about things that I experienced before I like was gaslighting myself and telling myself I wasn't experiencing those things,
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It is. I find actually when I do work with someone for an extended period of time, that's where I start from. I always start from astrology and from someone's birth chart, because I feel that it does. First of all, it's a language that I, for some reason, very innately understand. Like it just makes sense. To me, it just makes a lot of sense. It's like, when some people look at numbers and they straight away like can figure it out, like,
yes,
it makes sense to them. For me, it's astrology. It just makes complete sense. And so that's where I like to start from when I work with someone with a for a prolonged period of time. And I always get the same response. I always get that they feel validated, because when they read it, they're like, I feel like I was thinking about this stuff throughout my whole life, but maybe, they didn't have the courage, or maybe they didn't, put the dots together, and I feel like, imagine, I did my full birth chart. I think it was now probably 7 years ago, 6 years ago, when I was always into astrology, but I had my own like fair share of stuff that brought me to awakening, right? So when I actually did my full chart, it was about 7 years ago, and I looked at it, and it all of a sudden started to feel like, wait a minute, what if I had this when I was 10? What if I learned this when I was this is literally an instruction manual.
Right.
That's what it is, right?
Yes.
And it blows my mind, because at the different periods, and now, in the past 7 years, I've, you get challenges that you need to, that you face, and things that you want to overcome, maybe things that you feel called to explore in your life and all of that. And I find that I've been traveling through different pieces of my birth chart, and now I have the awareness of it, and it's such a gift. Oh my goodness, it's such a gift to be able to just take that, stack of paper because it's big, take that stack of paper and just be like, okay, so this is what I'm experiencing in my life. What does my manual say about that? How can I approach this? And what wisdom is there in there? Is there any advice? Is there anything that is going to help me make the most out of the situation that I'm in, or at least understand how to navigate it? I just honestly, I think it's such a gift. Yeah, I really do think.
Well, and my North Node is close to my moon sign in Leo, and understanding that really gives me so much more authority and less fear, I'm not saying I've completely overcome fear of judgment and whatever, like that's going to be who knows when that will go away, but but it really does help me take action, like, because I'm like, you already know, like, go do what you're supposed to do, like, you've been, and that was probably the single most validating thing in my whole chart, because I was like, this is why, like, I have been trying to build a stage for myself since I was little, like, I saw myself, like, as a kid, I was like, I'll be some sort of preacher, like, I don't know, but like, I saw myself doing things like this very young, and so that was really such a validation, because my friends didn't understand that drive to like be seen, even though it was very obvious I was afraid of being seen, but like the people around me just didn't understand that. And so, it was just, it became part of my too muchness, like, as I was, growing up. But then learning that for myself, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so comforting to see, because this is my destiny. It is my path. And I should have just listened to myself all of these years, but I let the voices of others tarnish what I knew to be my truth. Those were my truths very young. I mean, I was seeing orbs really young. All kinds of signs that I just like slowly let people diminish because they knew better than me, right?
Yeah, because very often we're raised, I mean, at least I find this true for myself and for many of my clients, but very often we're raised to listen outside of ourselves, because mama knows best.
Yeah,
that's like one of the things that, I'm not going to say ruined my life, the mama knows best kind of thing, but it did not help.
It doesn't help. No,
because it puts you searching for validation outside of yourself. It puts you listening to people, especially when you're little, because you're supposed to be learning things, right? So you're looking for something to guide you, right? You're looking for someone to guide you, but parents have to be very careful with this, because I think, I'm not a parent, and I don't know if I'll ever be, but and I know that it's possibly a very, very hard thing to navigate on how to transmit this to a child, but the confidence comes from being able to trust ourselves.
That's exactly right. Right.
Not from mama knows best.
Not from mom saying, oh my God, good job. Like, because we do that too. You're exactly right. I think what you just said is one of the key facets of coming home to yourself, where the trust is, because that you are divinely guided, but also you're divinely supported. Like, you're not this was my big catastrophe in life, was every choice, two very distinct paths, like the right one and the wrong one. And I mean, Gloria, like stupid choices, like stuff, because that I had zero trust in myself. But what I tell clients and just, other people in conversation all the time, in fact, this is really a part of the message I'm trying to spread, is we are robbing children of the gift of intuition and just even learning what their yeses and their nos are very early in life by teaching them compliance overall. Like that, no matter what, you are a good human if you are very compliant to me, to the school, to your employers, compliance. That's the thing. That and serving to your own demise. People are very much instilling that in their children. I am a mom, and one of the biggest things I did to fuck my kids up, is mostly the oldest one, because I had him when I was 22. That was a really smart idea. But I can tell you that the reason parents are doing this is because the consequences are the intended consequences, I guess is a better way of saying that. Parents are, if you are unhealed, you are very much trying to get your kid to care the most about what you think, to not listen to their intuition, to be compliant, all so that they can make you look good.
Yeah.
Also that the outside world will now validate you in your motherhood, parenthood, whatever you want to say. That's the fucking truth. Because when I came to that understanding for myself, I'm so thankful. I don't even know that I've even really processed this, but I had to have had some version of my higher self intervene with at that time in my child's life. There's no other explanation, because all it took was hearing one video on social media saying, you only want your kid to go to that college so you can fucking brag about yourself. And I was like, that's true. Like, I was like, that's true. And I was a very defensive person, especially about my babies. So like that was divine intervention, because I was very much on that critical path. And he's a Virgo moon, so they receive so much criticism, poor babies. But like I saw it and I was like, okay. And then now that I have had my awakening and do this work on myself and with others, I was like, oh God. Yeah, no wonder he doesn't trust himself. I didn't want him to. I didn't, but I didn't know that I had none for myself either. I was just repeating a pattern, Yeah. But it was the intended consequence. But even just the small things, like I've gone on so many fucking rants about this, so I'm not going to. But I, as a girl, feel like I was put in more positions than, let's say, my brothers were to force me into like bodily contact with others, like hugs, kisses, whatever, with grown-ups. And the whole, like, girls are approached more by strangers to tell you how pretty you are in grocery stores. And that would happen. I had really long, past my butt, strawberry blonde hair. So it was very intriguing to the older folk around. And they would just come, and I'm like forced to like interact with them, talk about my hair, thank them. That is something I've worked really hard with my daughter to not repeat. Like I did for a little while, but then it hit me like, and then as I started to awaken, I was like, oh my God, that was the best gift I gave her. That I didn't even know what I was doing when I did that. And I was still like, I was getting really feminist was the thing. So I was like, fuck everyone. Like, you don't have to say thank you to anyone. We didn't ask them for that compliment. You know what I mean? Not that you're angry, but I was in a moment. Okay. I was in a moment and I had to like get over a hump, and that's how I chose to do it. But like, I think, we're robbing everyone of the ability to just go, do I want to do that or do I not? Like, what do I feel comfortable doing?
Yeah, that's true. Because at the end of the day, we're all born with an intuition. There's none of us. There is no chance that somebody is born without an intuition.
Right.
Okay? We're all born with it. And it's the thing that's supposed to give us direction in life, right? It's the inner compass. Right? It's the inner compass that is supposed to give us direction in life. And if we talk to kids in a certain way, they'll never have the opportunity to connect with that, because they'll never believe it. Right. Because they believe that what's coming from the outside is the right instruction. For me, I always felt, I've always felt since a very young age that I was older than my parents. And I felt I felt like what they were telling me did not make sense. Like the instructions that they were giving me, to behave in a certain way. To me, I could not find a reason behind it. Like I couldn't find a sense to
You're like,
it.
why?
Yeah, why would I have to do that? You know, they were like, I remember there was this thing. My mom was obsessed with my body and how what my body looked like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I was a sporty girl. I did semi-professional swimming, so I was, my body
You're
was lean,
muscular, but
exactly,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then I stopped, and during puberty, I stopped at that time, and so I put on something like 10 kilos.
Normal
right?
weight gain, yeah.
Right? Normal weight gain. You stop doing sports, and that's all normal. My mother created a whole no, you cannot possibly.
Ugh.
Now you have stretch marks,
Yes.
and now your cellulite is coming out. And I remember that I didn't give a damn. I couldn't care less. My own thing inside of me couldn't care less. But her reaction, I felt like I was some form of monster having this experience. Oh my God, what is my body do? Is it doing something that it's not supposed to?
It's not supposed to do that? Am I dying?
Right?
Yeah.
What is happening? I must be completely wrong. And she took me to have treatments for this is at 14. She took me to have treatments for stretch marks and all that. And from that point
the 80s
on,
were wild. The 90s were wild. You were allowed to give your children eating disorders. You were encouraged to, in fact.
Right. And so I grew so disconnected from my body, and that led me to make certain really bad choices with regards to my body, eating disorders, body dysmorphia, even the relationships, how I showed up, in intimacy with the relationships that I was in. That completely messed me up. But then again, because I was raised with the mama knows best approach rather than what does your intuition say, I completely believed all of that.
Yeah.
I completely believed that all of that was true, even though
you were the problem.
Core, exactly. Yeah. And even though at the core, I was like, I don't really care if I have stretch marks. I don't really get. I stopped swimming because I didn't believe in the way that they were treating the athletes.
Right.
It wasn't even because I didn't like swimming. I didn't believe in the way that
swimming as a sport is so fucking intense. So I don't blame you.
Yeah. So I've extracted myself from the environment, and she didn't tell me anything about that. But the remarks were all about the body.
Oh my God, I had a very similar experience. At the same age, I got stretch marks during puberty, and I mean really bad ones on my inner thighs. I had seen them, I didn't know what they were when I saw them, and it was a little worrisome because they're so bright and red and whatever, but it was also like, oh, okay, that's probably normal. She saw them in the car and did not hide her disgust. My grandma is who primarily raised me, and she was an almond mom. That's the fun new phrase now, but she literally didn't weigh over 100 pounds my entire life with her. She was 40 years older than me, and she never weighed more than 100 pounds the whole time she was alive while I was alive. Probably before that even she didn't, except for when she was pregnant. She was just very naturally very, very small. And then also because of that, she was one of those people who couldn't eat when they were stressed and, stuff like that. So, and she didn't take good care of herself at all. And she drank coffee all day and smoked cigarettes all day. So she just didn't have an appetite. Well, Mama, I have an appetite. I'm hungry. and then my mom one summer got me hooked on Diet Coke. So, I'm just slamming Diet Cokes and eating whatever I want because I'm a teenager and that's what we're supposed to do. But she was, oh my God, she lost it over those stretch marks. And then in that moment, that was my shame to carry for years. Years. And what that did to the way I connected with my body or disconnected, man, people just do not even think in that moment that you are very literally ruining a part of your child's history.
Yeah. I really don't think they are. But it's very damaging. And you know what? On the other side, I see my boyfriend, who is one of the most soulful and authentic and confident people I've ever met in my life. He's just so sure of who he is, you know? And when we started dating, 7 years ago, I asked about somebody's background, how were you with your parents and stuff. And in so many instances, he told me about being told off in school for doing something, and then his dad coming home and being like, well done.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
I'd be like, well done. I had to go listen to the teacher say this, but you, boy, you carry on with what you feel like you need to do. And I thought I'm like, no wonder you're the way that you are.
Well,
No
yeah.
so confident and like so strong in so many ways, because you were supported to.
You were allowed to think.
You were allowed, yeah, exactly.
That's
yeah,
the thing right there. When you take away a child's ability to problem solve because you're hovering and guilty. I mean, I was so guilty of it. Like I was so leaned into my own fear and shame that I just controlled the shit out of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember being the controlled child. First of all, I was the golden child in a very dysfunctional family. And second of all, I'm in Oklahoma in the US, and I don't know how much you know about that, but it is very Bible Belt, staunch religiosity here. If you are religious in Oklahoma, you are a fundamentalist. And fight me, I don't care, because that's the truth. Like, there's no chill Christianity in Oklahoma, none. I mean, except for the people who have kind of like, developed their own spiritual whatever. But like as a whole, as a church in Oklahoma, it's pretty nasty. So I was being, shamed nonstop about, all humanness that whole time. And, the boomers and the silent generation, like I said, they really valued compliance. And so they really did hammer, I don't care if it's a teacher, I don't care if it's a stranger, I don't care who it is, you respect them and you don't talk back and you da-da-da. And they very much believed we weren't allowed to take up space. Well, how do you then take that programming, become an adult, and feel like you can take up space in this world? You don't. That's the answer.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Yeah, you don't take up space.
Mm-hmm. No, I just commented on, I kind of try to stay off Facebook these days because it's annoying, but I have to post my shit on there. So I went to post and I try to like support other people in whatever social media space I happen to be visiting while I post my shit. And someone posted something about, I really liked this. It was a meme, but it said, if you want less iPad kids, then let's normalize kids being allowed to be kids in public. And I was like, oh my God, yes, because the stress that I used to have in public with kids of like, how can I present like we're this perfect fucking family? If this little bastard over here is acting out, like he, that middle child, he was really good at tantrums in public. So like, excuse, I don't know what we're doing here, but it's true. Like, I mean, to be clear, everyone's got some kind of judgment. Like until you like understand why you're such a judgmental asshole, that's just what people are. So, I mean, that's going to happen. But I do feel like if we started allowing kids, because the people I know my age and older, they still do this. They still act like kids should be sat at the children's table and, all of the things. Like, I don't know what your holidays were like. We didn't really have a children's table, but like my ex-husband's family did. Like, kids weren't going to sit with the adults. Why?
I know
stuff like that.
Yeah. And you know what, though? I think that you're right. I think that people are always going to judge because it's, we project all the time. We project and we judge all the time.
Yep.
So I think that the work that we need to do is not necessarily, I mean, it is on allowing the children to be children, fully that, yes. But it's also, I think, on us in understanding that, yes, they judge, then who cares?
Right.
Like, who cares? I think that again, like talking about coming home to ourselves, I feel that one of the biggest things for me in that journey was to stop caring about what other people think.
Yes, me too.
Zero. Now
that was my biggest cross to bear. Was it yours also? Like caring so much about what other people thought about you.
Yeah. Because you're not. You know what? I come from a village in the countryside of Italy, so also very Catholic, raised very Catholic myself as well, right? and very judgmental places, everybody obsessed with what you're wearing and who you're with and how much you weigh and what color your hair is and what handbag have you got, like all this sort of stuff that doesn't
Jewelry
make any sense,
even, yes.
right? Yes, it doesn't
Mhm.
make any sense at all. So anyway, and I had a very obsessive mother because obviously, you know, unhealed herself and everything. I do love my mom and I think we've come a long way, but very obsessive.
It
in the
was
way
what
that
it was,
she
yeah.
was. Yeah, it was what it was. And I, at 24 years old, I packed my bags with my ex, who became my husband a few years later, and now is no longer my husband. But we packed our bags and we decided to move to London in the UK. London is a very free place, very free. Like nobody is going to say anything about what you're wearing. There's people,
Really? Okay.
yes, like I mean, I'm sure that there's community with there's judgment, yes,
Sure.
but it's a humongous place. You know,
Right.
there's all sorts. There's loads of ethnicities, loads of ages, loads of fashion styles, loads of different
Cool.
kinds of music.
Yeah.
It's like it's called a melting pot for a reason, right? Because
Mhm.
there's loads of different things. And I remember on day 2, I went on the Underground, which in London is called the Tube, and I saw a group of girls out in their pajamas on the Tube, and I thought, oh, I landed in the right place.
You're like, I belong here.
I'm
Yeah.
like, yes,
Mhm.
this is amazing. And it felt so freeing. It felt so freeing.
Mhm.
It's not that I completely changed the way that I was, you know, my sense of fashion or my style of what I was wearing, but I was no longer having such a weight about having to make an impression on this or an impression on that. It was just so freeing for once. To be like,
Yes.
oh my God, you know, I'm taking the Tube and I don't care whether I'm going to meet that person or that person or that person and whatever they're going to say or refer to my mother. Like,
God, yes.
oh, you know, so
Yes.
freeing. So freeing.
Yes. Oh my God. When I stopped caring, well, that's whenever, okay, because I've loved tattoos for years, but I had a ton like in places where other people couldn't see them. Like
Okay.
my back is covered in them, my ribs are covered in them. And then in like 2021 or 2, I was like, well, fuck it. And I just Uranus moved into my first house. And so I said, fuck it. And I got my nose pierced. That was a very big, like, no, because first impressions are everything, Gloria.
Yeah.
I have so many tattoos now, like
I
that
love
you can
them.
see
Look at
everywhere.
that.
And I love them. There's so much a part of me. And I'm not doing it because I hate my body, which was how it started. Like, I have a theory that usually a woman that you see covered in sleeves of tattoos, she was at some point hating her body. I mean, I really think that. But then like just the love of like putting different art on me or reminders. I like reminders, you know. I get to use tattoos however I want to, you know.
Yeah.
But I used to care so much about, like, I had one on my foot and I hated it because I got it in the wintertime thinking, oh, socks will cover it up because God knows we got to cover up our tattoos. But then summertime came and I was like, oh no, people can see my tattoo and flip flop. That was a really big deal to me. And now, like, it's just so nice to just be like, whatever. I mean, like, even showing up here today, I was like, I'm tired. I'm not going to like get ready today. And I do that sometimes, you know, because I like to record in the mornings and I don't always feel like getting ready in the mornings. That's that.
Yeah.
I don't have to like think too much about it.
No. I know. And you know what else I was just thinking about? That oh God, it left me.
That happens to me all the time.
No way.
That's some Gemini shit right there.
Why? Why did it leave? Oh
You got
no,
too
maybe it's
excited.
coming back. Yes, I did get very excited about it. No, I was thinking about judgment and our body and where was I going? Oh no, never mind. Melissa, carry on.
That's so
It
cute.
will come back.
It happens to me all the time. And I'm like, I've
Oh,
at first, when I first started the show and it would happen, I would just like figure something out and go with it. And now I'm just totally honest about like, well, I actually forgot what I was saying. Were you by any chance going to talk about like the judgment of your own stuff, like your judgment of your own body, your style, whatever, coming like
No, it was
being
something
that
to do with
projection.
no. Oh no, there it is. So I feel like part of the process, like we were saying, part of the process of coming home to, or maybe part of the byproduct, one of the byproducts of coming home to ourselves is the fact that we separate from the judgment of other people. We stop caring, right? But I feel like another thing that happens, that by doing that and by coming home to ourselves and by having our own validation through our own intuition, we also become more tolerant.
Yes.
We also become more tolerant towards other people.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of hating each other for the differences, one of the things that I found was that actually I started really, really appreciating the differences.
Mm-hmm.
Like the more someone is the opposite as me, the more curious I am. Like, oh my God, I wonder what their story is.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, how did they get there? What I've never in a million years I would have felt maybe attracted to a certain personality or to a certain, because there was
well,
so
it wouldn't
much.
have felt safe.
We wouldn't have felt safe, exactly, right? But I feel that once we accept our own intuition and once we live in our authenticity, that's it. Like we're so much more open, so much more tolerant, because you understand that we're all human beings, right?
Yes.
We're not expecting anybody else to be perfect. We don't put the pressure on ourselves to be.
Exactly. I think we lower our expectations in general. I've tried to really kind of rid myself of them. Like expectations are judgments essentially. So just trying to like navigate how to just live in a content place. But I think the reason it's easier for me too is I recognize how alike we are. As I started to dig under the layers, I realized it doesn't really matter what the differences look like. If you really separate some things, you can find how you are exactly alike with anybody, because like we really are all kind of walking around with the same narratives, and we got to them a little differently. So it looks different. But that's why I've even like, sometimes I don't start, like when I'm giving a talk, I don't start with exactly what happened in childhood, because I don't want anyone minimalizing or trivializing their own experience if they're comparing it with mine, because our wounds are the same. Because it's a part of being a human. And as I like started to go, oh, I do that too. Oh, I do that too. Oh, I do that too. Because I'm getting to know myself. I'm really exploring self. You don't have to explore other people because you just know yourself so well. People can talk and you hear what I hear people shame when they talk. I hear their fear when they talk. And I'm going to be so much more tolerant knowing, oh, they're feeling scared in this conversation, or, oh, I've triggered something and I'm going to back off a little, like I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight for anything anymore, because I don't think I have to. I'm very much in my own authority. I don't need to defend myself,
Yeah. But because you dropped the mask.
Yes, exactly. I had 100 masks. I mean, it was whoever was in front of me got a new mask, because I had no idea which part of me was real anymore. I think that's what really led to burnout and why I had all of this awakening. I mean, I really couldn't even describe it now. I just know I was like, probably just because there was astrology transits and I was trying to like get into the energy of those, and I was learning about myself and just trying to stay alive because I was really, really depressed. But then just paradigm shifts, just all of a sudden like, oh, that's why that happened. Okay, cool. Or now I just need to uncover this. But I'm just so curious. I try like to really just work with whatever the energy is and be like, that's interesting that came up today. Or, if I'm having a bad day where everything just feels hopeless and whatever, I've just learned to like not resist that so much. I mean, if you're trying not to think about whatever bad thoughts are coming up in your head, the harder like it is. So I'm just like, well, you can stay if you want, little bad thoughts. I don't know. I'm going to keep doing this. And then eventually they just go away because I'm not going to resist everything anymore,
Yeah, absolutely. You build, I think that the more you heal, the more space you create for living inside of yourself,
Mhm.
which is a hard thing to do. I think we can all
Yes.
recognize that living with ourselves is not the easiest thing to do. And I think, yeah, the more you heal, the more you drop the masks, the more you drop the programming, the conditioning, the more you drop, the parents' issues, whatever, the more space you create inside of yourself to breathe, because
Yes.
it's all it's about at the end of the day. If we don't have space inside, where are we supposed to put, the growth? Where are we supposed to put the inspiration? Where are we supposed to put the creativity? How are we supposed to access the intuition, if the intuition is just that little flame inside of ourselves, but it's like,
Mhm. You
you
gotta
know
fan it. Yeah,
completely.
you gotta hold
Exactly.
it, and you gotta know exactly when to blow
Yeah.
on it to get bigger flames.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Ugh. Well, and I've been doing this thing where I visualize, like, expanding a container within myself, because
Oh,
I'm just
amazing.
now like stepping out of my comfort zone in certain ways, like being around. I've been very reclusive over this last year because what spiritual journey's like. It's just
Yeah.
no one understands you. Everyone thinks you're crazy. You know what I mean? Like, it's just whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's a very cerebral / internal process. And I just didn't have a need to be around a lot of people. And I'm busy. But now I'm like trying to, explore. And part of evolving has been me learning to like get really vulnerable with people about stuff I'm going through in real time. That's still very new and very scary for me. Like, I still am trying every day to be like, this is what this is what I'm experiencing. Can you help me with this, or whatever it is I'm needing to express? But I felt so much gratitude for a conversation that just triggered my ass bad. Like, I was like, this is why I don't tell people and blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that was on you, honey. Like, you need, this is your work to do. It's not their fault that you were triggered. Like, what the hell are you talking about? And so I started just visualizing my container expanding, and was just like, this is just you stretching. That didn't feel safe. And that's okay. Just make yourself safe now. Like, it's okay to be triggered. It's what you do with that, the next step
You
that
do.
matters.
Yeah. And I think that that's such a shame when people stop.
Yeah.
It's such a shame. They're like, oh, this is either uncomfortable or scary, or I have to really get out of the comfort zone, and then they stop. And then they stop because they don't believe that they can do it. They don't think that actually what we're supposed to do is the stretch, because that's
Yes.
the growth, right? It's not the goal that you achieve, it's the growth that happens in the journey, what actually counts, what actually matters. And it really makes me sad. It really does make me sad when I see people that don't believe in themselves enough to allow the stretch to happen.
Yes.
I
Yes.
always feel for that. I really always feel for that, because I'm like, no, you're here to be so much more than you're allowing yourself to be.
Yeah.
And yes, it's scary, but you go through a scary year, or maybe a scary 5 minutes, and then it's all better, and
Yes.
you know
Well, and for someone like me, it's all a little scary. Every day is a little scary. Like, just
yeah.
trying to be seen while not being afraid of being seen, all the things. But I think the thing is, though, and definitely I've recognized this, like, in hindsight about myself, is that me pushing every single person in my life away my whole life, like, and the story was so real to me. Like, they don't show up for me the way I need them to. They're toxic. They're blah, blah, blah. That felt very real. Just like when my friend was giving me feedback that I didn't appreciate, that felt real
Mhm.
too. It really takes a commitment to be
Yeah.
like, help me see this differently. Like, what am I missing here? Because I know my humanness is telling me this person's in the wrong, and it's okay to just never talk to them again, because that's something I just love to do.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, how can I connect spiritually here to be like, what's a bigger truth? Because that may be true on one plane, and then there's a higher truth,
Yeah. I actually taught myself to do something in these whenever I'm experiencing something that it's uncomfortable,
Mhm.
whenever I feel like I'm being attacked, or whenever I feel like things don't go the way I would like them to go, they don't turn out the way that I envisioned it or whatever. I used to really, really get stuck into that experience of like trying to find out why and what went wrong and why this person this and why this person that. And that created a lot of drama and a lot of anxiety in my
Mhm.
life, right? And so I switched it up, and now I taught myself to say, okay, everything I know and understand now that everything is happening for a reason. Nothing that is happening in my life is because there's something evil trying to get to me. Okay.
Thank you for saying
Right.
that. I love when people say that.
Right.
That I'm not the only
Nothing
one who
is-
thought that.
Exactly. Like nothing is happening because there's something evil. So if I take these two truths, everything is happening for a reason, and there's definitely not something evil out there trying to reach me, then I know that there's a lesson, a learning, or a message in this thing that I'm experiencing. So the
Mhm.
question that I'm asking myself is like, I'm gonna go a level up, and I say, okay, if this was the best thing that has ever happened to me, what would be the reason why this is happening? And this is my default now.
I love that.
My default now. I'm like, okay, it's challenging, but this is the best thing. I know that this will bring the best possible outcome. I'm supposed to experience this. So if this was the best possible thing that could ever happen to me, what is the reason? What can I
Oh my
take from
God,
this?
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Wow.
I trained myself to
We're
do
like,
that.
we're not going to catastrophize
Yeah,
every
we're
situation
not.
anymore.
Yeah, I lived with generalized anxiety and OCD for years and years and years. So control and drama, was everything that I was lost into. So
Yep.
it took a lot to come out of those narratives, but now I just refuse to go back there. I just refuse
Yes.
that. I just
Again, it's
refuse
a
that.
commitment.
Yeah, it is. It's a
Yeah.
choice. Yeah, it's a choice.
Yes. Because
Yeah.
it's not always an easy choice. Like it's sometimes easier to just let my human self take over and be stupid for a little while. But I don't want to live that life anymore.
No. Yeah, yeah.
I just really accept whatever is in the moment and just move on.
Yeah, I think that we're allowed some slack. I think we're allowed to be stupid every now and then.
Absolutely.
I think we're allowed to do that, like I've done so many, after I got divorced, I've done so many stupid things just for the high of freedom.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Listen, the divorce
And so-
crazies, that's real. Okay.
Yeah,
The
right?
things you do post-divorce,
Yes.
it could be considered a spiritual experience.
They needed to happen. Okay, they needed to happen.
I get it. I agree.
needed to be unhinged for a little while. But you know
Yep.
what? I think there's a space for that.
There
I think there's a
is. You have to
space for that.
unbecome so many things.
Yes.
And there's
yes.
really no other way to do it other than like fucking lose your mind for a little while.
Yeah. And then you sort of like come back to yourself and be like, okay, that was a little stupid. Maybe let's not do that again. Maybe let's not go down that road again. And sort of like you come back and you rein it back in. But I think that you're allowed to explore yourself. You're allowed to explore if you need to eat the cake and drown your emotions for an afternoon and eat the whole
Hell
cake.
yeah.
Well, do that. Just don't make that your lifestyle.
Right.
But if you do that for one afternoon because you just needed to get it out of your system, allow yourself to do that. Don't judge yourself.
You're reminding me of something I was thinking of when we very first started talking, which is you were talking about the different avenues to spirituality. And as that kind of progressed, I remember thinking, yeah, and that's why people practice differently too. And I've really gotten to a place where I'm like, whatever works for you. But I kind of encountered early on some of those judgmental spiritual folk who were very rigid and it has to be like this and whatever. And that's their path right now, I guess. But like, I believe you can practice whatever, however you want to. And that this experience really, that's where it comes down to, we really are unique and we really do have our own fingerprint on this earth. And we can allow that to transpire however we want it to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. And I think it's such a shame when people get stuck into teaching spirituality in a specific way.
Yeah.
Because it puts people off. It just gets people off spirituality. And it's a shame if people do that, because spirituality, I feel it's an avenue to come home to yourself. It's one of the last steps, and if you find someone that tells you this is the only way that you can do it, and these are the steps that you need to follow, please don't listen to them.
Right.
Right. Please don't. Like, explore your spirituality in the way that you feel called to explore it. There is no, and if it doesn't make sense, even better. If it doesn't make sense, but if you feel called to something, even better, because it means that you're being guided by your intuition, and your intuition doesn't often make rational sense. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? Because it takes time to
because your intuition is going to go against everything you've ever been taught.
Exactly. Correct. Yes. And so just feel, if one day you want to explore a certain thing and the other day it's going to be something completely different, it's okay. And it's also okay if you never find the one way.
Exactly.
It's also fine, because
there's
maybe
probably not one way.
Exactly. It's probably, if you feel like you want to do something different every day, it's okay, because it means that your soul is asking you for that. And if it's asking you for that, it means that that's your soul's expression. So don't judge it. It's totally okay.
Don't resist.
Totally
just flow.
Flow.
I love it. I love it. Well, I have had so much fun with you today. I really appreciate you taking time to come on. And again, like I said, I will make sure I do a whole introduction. If there is anything like link wise that you don't have included on the profile, but you want included, you can send over anything, because I will put links in my show notes to anything you want.
Oh, that's okay. So everything that I need
all
is
there?
on my website. So if you put my website, that's all good. Yes.
Okay,
Thank you
I will.
for having me, Melissa. It was so great.
I had such a good time. Have a great day.
Time too. Thank you. You too.
Thanks.
Bye.
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 Hey, make sure you've given the show a 5-star rating on whatever platform you're listening to if you haven't already. And check out my website, empoweredwithmelissahepner.org, or my link tree on Instagram at melissa.hepner, to check out my latest offers or workshops. Emotionally unavailable. All right, that's it from me. So make sure that you check out the show notes for links. And until next time, let's all just keep swimming. Emotionally unavailable.
INDEPE and cut.